Number 6 on the countdown is a little bit of an upset, and the reason why I say Morgeth is a bit of an upset is because I really don't like this raid fight. I'll be honest, this has to be one of my least favorite raid bosses that we've ever had. I mean, not as least favorite as Dildos, as the YouTube article goes fuck himself with, but essentially, this is just not a good boss fight. However, you're going to notice with the ranking system that I have, with all the idea and the criteria that I have, and the ranking numbers, I basically went through subjectively ranking each. I didn't go back and edit. I didn't update things. I tried to go with what I thought was a genuine rating, and then at the end, I wanted to see where each one of these bosses landed. Morgeth scores well on 2 categories, and because it scored well in 2 categories, that bumped it up the chart a little further than some of the other bosses. I don't like this fight at all. I think it's a shitty boss. I really do, because it's so fucking easy. But essentially, the point totals are what really pushed this one over the top, and you guys are going to see that as we go through the countdown. So, getting into the categories. Communication, I gave this a 1, and here's why. You don't need to say shit. The only thing you need to say, for the most part, is trapped left, trapped right. That's it. And you can even control which players are actually going to get caught in the tornado. If you know that 2 people are going to pick up on the left, 1 person picks up on the right, you know that that 1 person is going to be the one who gets stuck. If you set up the rotation even before you start the encounter, your communication is pretty much over for this fight. So because of that, I have to give this a very low score. Unique elements to this fight. I gave this a 2. I mean, jumping into balls, grabbing a buff, exchanging the buffs. We've kind of seen this before in certain elements. We saw this with Golgoroth, where you had to kind of exchange the buff if you wanted to continue to do damage, especially if you did the challenge version of Golgoroth. We've had Spire of Stars, where you've had to communicate whether who's buffed or empowered. We've had the Axis fight during Wrath of the Machines, where some people were empowered, some weren't. So essentially what you just have to do is you just have to know who's going to step in a ball, who's going to take the empowerment or the debuff, whatever the case is, and have 1 person dedicated to cleansing them. How to unlock the damage phase. Essentially, this is the 2. You see the fucking orbs. All you have to do is jump in the fucking orbs. That's all you have to do. Just make sure that you only take 2, and by the end of that, you're going to basically unlock Morgeth. Variety of strategy, and here's one of the items that got a decent score. I gave this a 4. And a big reason why I gave this a 4, and this happens to be the highest ranking of pretty much any boss when it comes to variety of strategy. You can do virtually anything to Morgeth. You can use your supers on him. You can get a team to just golden gun his ass, where you get 6 golden guns creating orbs for each other after you do the 3-shot. You can use shotguns on him. You can use fusion rifles on him. You could do Outbreak Prime. We used to be able to whisper the worm his ass from the other side of the map. You can still continue to snipe his ass from the other side of the map. You could use Sleeper. Acrius was fantastic. Ikelos is fantastic. Threat level. Lord of Wolves. I've seen people use the Risk Runner on him. Almost everything you have in your arsenal is available for Morgeth. You can get right under his asshole and fire on him, or you can stay your distance all the way at the end of the bridge and go to town on his ass. There is no limit to what you can do to beat him. Now, that ease doesn't make a fantastic boss, but you do have to admit there is a lot of variety in the strategy that you could use to kill him. Direct threat level of the boss. Because he's basically a big fucking ogre, the main threat that he has is his eye push. Now, his eye push is a pain in the ass. You get caught in that shit, man, you're gonna get blown off the map. So yes, Morgeth can be a pain in the ass. You can hide, you can take cover, and for the most part, you're going to avoid his eye blast. But if he hits you with that shit, man, it doesn't kill you directly, but man, it will push your fucking shit right off the map and fuck your day up. Mobility of this fight. Overall, I gave this a 1. And there's a little bit of running around. There's some movement on the left. There's some movement on the right. May require 1 person to run across the map to cleanse him if you're the last person or whatever the case is. But otherwise, there's not a lot of mobility to this fight. For the most part, you could set up somebody top left, top right, bottom right, and you pretty much cover the entire map when it comes to the ads that are going to be coming out and the orbs that you need to pick up. Recovery. Can you fuck up and still pass this raid? Absolutely. However, I'm only going to give this a 3. And a big reason why I'm going to give this a 3 is because you can get to the point where if you make too many mess ups, he's going to fuck your day up. Part of the reason why you can recover so easily is because Morgeth has virtually no fucking health. It doesn't matter if you have one missed ball, you have a death, you got to go back and pick up the ball. Morgeth starts gaining 20, 30, 40% strength or whatever it is. He could get up to 60, 70% strength and you can still wipe his ass out. He doesn't have enough health to get to his white mechanic, where you absolutely need to do this in 2 phases. If you have mistakes before you get to the damage unlock, you can still recover. So overall, I had to give this a middle-of-the-road score 3 because you can recover from a mistake in this particular fight. Teammates needed, and this is where we're breaking the barrier, and one of the scores that really boosted him up. You do need all 6 players. Now, yes, I have seen the videos. I know exactly how to use less players. I know exactly how someone can get more than 2 orbs. Basically, you have to do your shield block, sword block, and you can get all 10 orbs if you wanted to. However, we're not going by what speedrunners do. We're not going by what super teams do. We're going by, if you take a normal team and everybody has an equal role, how many people do you physically need? The math is 6. There is no way around this. So this is one of only 2 bosses that gained a 6 score on this particular criteria, and one of the big reasons why Morgeth jumped so high in the ranking, just because of this score. Difficulty at launch. This is a 2. There's really nothing difficult about Morgeth. A lot of it was figuring out, how can I survive those suicide balls that come off the back of his neck or whatever the fuck those things are. Basically, you either had to have a bubble, you had to have a very strong well or whatever it is, or you had to melt the motherfucker. Final rating that we have is rewards, and this is the topic that I want to expand upon. In every other video, you're going to notice that one of the topics is going to get an expansion explaining why I think it's important to have that as part of the criteria. And rewards are a big part of raiding. What is it that you get from a raid that you absolutely need to have? And part of running a raid, aside from getting some of the best loot in the game, aside from just the fact that you beat it, from getting triumphs or whatever the case is there a weapon that makes you want to continue to run the raid? If you look all the way back to the Vault of Glass, there was the Mythoclast. Anybody that got the Mythoclast before the pre-nerf knows that shit was fucking awesome. Oh, motherfucker, that shit was awesome. Crotazen obviously had the Necrochasm, which wasn't fantastic right away. It eventually got a buff. But the big gun that people really wanted was the Black Hammer Sniper Rifle. That was an awesome reward that you got. Then with the Oryx, we had the Touch of Malice quest that officially kicked off once you were actually able to beat the raid. Come Wrath of the Machine, we got the Outbreak Prime quest line, which was that cool puzzle. There were things that made you want to raid. Those were items you absolutely wanted to have in your arsenal because they were awesome fucking weapons. Last Wish came up with some pretty damn good ideas, and Morgeth had some of the best rewards that we've received in the game, aside from being an end raid boss. Most of the end raid bosses are the ones that have the best rewards, but Morgeth has some pretty damn good shit. Overall, I gave this one a 4. And a big reason people still continue to this day to run this raid is because they want some reward in there as part of the quest for their title. Now, obviously, Bungie has locked a number of cosmetic items behind the Morgeth fight. You could get the Sparrow, or you have to have the Glimmering Key to get the ship, which is just between the Morgeth fight and the Vault encounter. People will literally checkpoint run this shit over and over and over again each week in order to get those 2 items to unlock the Cursebreaker title or Ravensbane title, I believe that's needed in order to get that. On top of that, it has one of the best guns that you can possibly get for those that enjoy the Fatebringer with the Nation of Beasts, especially when it comes to Masterwork. The Masterwork version is basically a Fatebringer that goes all the way back to the Vault of Glass. An arc hand cannon with Dragonfly, Outlaw, this thing is fucking amazing in PvE. In PvP, not so much. But in PvE, oh man, that gun is absolutely fantastic. Although, again, everyone will want the explosions to be a little bit bigger. But essentially, it is an awesome weapon you have to have in your arsenal, especially if you like arc hand cannons. Man, for those who are fans of the Fatebringer, you absolutely want this gun. Once you get the Sparrow, once you get the Glimmering Key to get the ship or whatever it is, people will run Morgeth over and over just to get those items. So yes, rewards are very important to a particular raid, and because of that, it gets a score of a 4. Now, going through all the scores of Morgeth, let's throw it up on the screen. It finishes with a 27, just barely ahead of Shuro-Chi with a 26. Now, I like Shuro-Chi better as a raid boss. The problem is, Morgeth outpointed her. There's just no way around it. Between the teammates needed, where it's scored a 6, one of only 2 bosses for that, rewards, where it got a high score, as well as the variety of strategy, Morgeth does technically come ahead of Shuro-Chi. Now, when we get to future videos, we're going to talk about how much you like a raid as to whether or not that's a good criteria to rank a raid. There are people who will say, this is my favorite raid. Doesn't mean it's a good raid. Doesn't mean it's a good boss. Doesn't mean it's a good encounter. Favorite is subjective. That's what you personally like. But ranking criteria, which is what I've done here, which goes from 0 to 5 on the rating scale, or 6 in some of these cases, that at least puts a little bit of a point total to the technical portions of this raid. And when we get into the next 5 that we get, the final countdown, we're going to go over more detail of that. So for now, as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. Next videos, top 5, and all of them are big bosses that you have to fight at the end of a raid.